Guys, I want to give you an update about what is going on at Campi Flegrei. It looks like this massive, long-lasting earthquake swarm is giving us a break right now. So if you look at this list, the last one was on August 20th. So 3 days ago, almost 4 days if we go Italian time. But this one has been lasting basically since August 14th till August 20th with earthquakes every day, and in the higher ranges, many above 2.8, 2.4, so higher ones. And this list only shows you the ones above 1. So there were several more smaller earthquakes that have rattled the residents there. And even if it's only 2.8 for a volcanic area, that's significant. It came with a roar, people could hear it. So it was rattling and shaking residents on an ongoing base. So of course, everyone's wondering what's going on at Campi Flegrei. What does that mean? Well, that's the problem. It's hard to predict. Certainly something is going on, and it has intensified with this earthquake swarm. But we haven't really heard much of the authorities. What the bulletin is saying, the Brady seism, that land rise, is continuing constantly at a rate of 2 centimeters per month. So that hasn't stopped. That isn't changing. And there's many critics that say this supervolcano has become too big to tackle for the officials and the authorities. That's why they're kind of like only dealing with the earthquakes and saying we have a seismic problem, we need to upgrade homes seismically. They're not really wanting to talk too much about the volcano or a potential eruption. It has come out that they're also worried about tourism, about people coming there. We know for a short period, a few months ago, the UK has issued a travel warning because of this. But you know, Pozzuoli, the town that is affected by this the most direct impact, because there we have the Solfatara. That's this one crater that is most active, and that is the epicenter of most of the earthquakes, and the circle around this. Pozzuoli is a scenic beach town that has this crater, and it's just outside of Naples. I mean, famous people like Sophia Loren was born there in Pozzuoli. But you know, they had the most powerful earthquake since decades in May with a 4.4, and since then we had another 4. And so it's intensifying, and it's rumbling, and it has terrified inhabitants in their sleep when it happens, right? So they slept in their cars, and they had an emergency camp set on the seafront. So it was really disrupting the peace there. And of course, we know Italy is a country that is prone to seismic activity like earthquakes. And the problem that we have in Pozzuoli here, Pozzuoli is part of a very densely populated area, and they're basically living on the volcano because it's not a high crater, it's flattened out. You don't really realize that you're on a crater, but this densely populated area sits on the most dangerous volcano in Europe and on one of the most dangerous volcanoes in the world. There are 24 hidden underground craters. They call this accumulation Campi Flegrei, the Phlegraean fields. That means the burning fields. And there's a reason why they're called that. So they also call it a supervolcano. And this volcano is closely located next to another volcano, Vesuvius. So Naples is basically right in between these two giant volcanoes. I mean, Vesuvius has destroyed the ancient Roman city of Pompeii, AD 79. And the problem here is, and that's what many criticize, is that politicians have turned a blind eye for decades. Yes, because probably it's an area of exceptional natural beauty. You can't deny that. And that's why coastal real estate there is highly desirable, because it's beautiful. The climate is just stunning, right? That's why the building construction ran out of control basically, and the population was increasing. And now we have 500,000 people living in these towns all over the highest danger zone. But Campi Flegrei threatens Naples as well. That's an area with more than 3 million people. But basically on this volcano, 500,000 people. And that's why it's so dangerous, because you can't evacuate them properly or in time if the volcano doesn't give you much warning. So Campi Flegrei has erupted 500 years ago. And but since summer last year, the small tremors have grown more frequent to a point where scientists have been recording more than 1,500 earthquakes a month in May, for example. And then there was this big one, the 4.4, right? And it was coming with more than 150 tremors in just one night. So this quake wasn't big enough to cause serious damage to buildings, although it did cause some damage, but the resulting panic that came from this finally kind of kicked the butts of authorities to take some action after they did drag their feet for decades, doing nothing, absolutely nothing. So yes, they are trying to prepare emergency plans to evacuate hundreds of thousands of people. They're receiving criticism for this because experts are saying it's not going to work and you're only focusing on seismic activity. You need to prepare for the worst case as well. So, but also the national government is for the first time considering quite a radical proposal. So they want to pay people to leave. They've tried this in the Vesuvius red zone. There weren't many takers. They offered like 30,000 euros. What is this? Like almost 40,000 US dollars. It wasn't a big incentive, if it's even 40,000 with the Euro week. So, but you know what I mean. Is that an incentive to leave your home, to leave your property? How far does that get you, right? But the problem is the Minister of Civil Protection, Nello Musumeci, he has said now repeatedly since this earthquake that the residents in this area, they are living with 3 risks. That's a big earthquake that could come at any time, because scientists have said after the 4.4 we have to prepare for a 5, for a bigger one. So the big earthquake, then the bradyseism, the land rise, the rising ground level is caused by magma filling the underground magma chambers underneath Campi Flegrei. So the ground is swelling. And then the third thing that they're dealing with, he says, is a very complex, very dangerous volcano. Well, I would say they're only dealing with a volcano because the volcano is causing the land rise, the swelling, and the earthquakes. They're dealing with a volcano, period, right? So, and if your Minister of Civil Protection says evacuation would be a problem, and he says that in a press conference, this tells you something. He says if there was a powerful earthquake, and he's only talking about the earthquake, not an eruption in the middle of 500,000 people and more than 3 million people. So he says if there was a powerful earthquake, 3,000 or 3,000 or 4,000 people would get into their cars and try to leave. Emergency services wouldn't be able to move. They would clog everything. That tells you something, right? So that's why it's critical that they do something. So basically what people are criticizing is that there was a very permissive culture in Campi Flegrei over decades. So a regional councillor, for example, for the local independent party has addressed this problem and has said decades of permissive government that has allowed illegal construction to flourish, with successive governments granting amnesties to legalize runaway development has put people in danger because they should have never built right up on the volcano. If you see the aerial picture here, it's like crazy. You see these holes everywhere. These are craters. They look like asteroids fell down or bombs or whatever. This is where they're building. So that is why there's a lot of danger here. And yes, we have to admit, this area is paradise. It's stunningly beautiful. The landscape is exceptionally beautiful. And the climate there, it's like you're living in eternal spring. Who wouldn't want that? It's a dream come true. And then the thermal activity of the volcanoes, even heating the water in your home, isn't that convenient? It's all great, right? Until the bad things happen. So what they're saying is this natural beauty of this coastline in this volcanic area has made this area vulnerable with opportunities for speculation that have fueled the constant urban development that has put fire into this problem, right? Has fired up this problem. But they're saying it's everyone's fault, not only the politicians, also the fault of the citizens who built there and live there. So what is there now? And that's also a problem, they're saying, in all sides, government and residents. There's resignation and low expectations. So people are basically, well, what can we do? Not much, right? And that's why many people are criticizing that the problem has never even been addressed, because it's not profitable to address this problem. And also, it always seemed too big to resolve. That's why has the volcano become too big to tackle? Where would you send all these people, right? So overall, Italy tends to react well to disasters once they have happened, but it does little to mitigate them beforehand. That is what many criticize there. And what this independent person says, this country has one of the best civil protection services in the world, but it only reacts to emergencies. There's no prevention. And yeah, that is a problem here at Campi Flegrei. And if you have seen my video about the Phlegraean, the super yacht that sank at the coast of Sicily, check it out, by the way, it's in the end screen. The civil protection and the emergency services have responded very, very well to this. But the prevention is the problem. But how do you prevent it now that all the people live there? Now that it's so densely populated? And what one resident told me, it's not that you would just take your husband and your kids and move away. They will not leave without grandma, the uncle, the aunt, the sisters. They have big family structures there, and they either leave all together or nobody leaves. They leave nobody behind, it's beautiful, but it's also a problem to get people to move, because if grandma says, I've lived here all my life, I'm old enough, I don't care if I die here, then everyone basically stays. That's what this Italian resident told me. I mean, we have to say it's impossible to predict with certainty when Campi Flegrei might erupt, but when it finally does, and it will at some time, the impact could be very devastating, and that's the problem. So the last eruption of Campi Flegrei in 1538 led to the formation of a new mountain. That's why they call it Monte Nuovo, new mountain. And there was a massive blowout 40,000 years ago that has cloaked most of Eastern Europe with ash, with traces of this ash found as far away as Russia, today's Russia. So that's why they're saying the danger to the public could only be mitigated by rehousing the local people elsewhere. So try to do that. Try to move them away from paradise. Leave their properties behind. I don't think this is going to work. So, of course, they're saying if there was less people, it would make it easier to evacuate those who remain in an emergency. So homes and schools for those who remain would have to be safe. Well, as safe as it can be, right? And residents should be informed about what to do in an emergency with evacuation tests. Well, they have run an evacuation rehearsal. The problem was nobody came. 30 people showed up to that emergency. They wanted to do this in the Pozzuoli area, and they invited 30,000 people to this emergency rehearsal, and 30 people showed up. So there you see what the people are willing to do. Or are they not taking it serious, or are they thinking evacuation wouldn't work anyways, so why even bother? I've had enough. All these earthquakes all the time, running out of the homes and stuff. They were just probably fed up with it. That's my interpretation. Already last year, there were proposals presented to the government, to the regional parliament, to ban new construction and to incentivize people to leave. But these proposals were ignored. So now we're at a stage where the new construction, it looks like they will put a lid on it, or they have put a lid on it. Government has been slow to act, but it seems now the government is preparing more to mitigate the risks. What the Minister of the Civil Defense says, and that's probably true, he says, we Southerners, we are a bit detached, a bit fatalistic. We are used to knocking on wood, he said. Well, yeah, I guess if you live there and if you plan on living there, that's all you can do, right? And he says that those who choose to live there at Campi Flegrei know the risks and must now be responsible. Well, what does that mean for these people, right? And that's the problem, what he says now. He says, we only remember the volcano when the earth shakes, and this is a great error. We need to live in vigilant coexistence with the danger. Well, the volcano keeps reminding them quite on a regular basis right now that it's shaking, that it's there, and that something's happening underneath the surface. So after the 4.4, they're carrying out safety checks of the homes. They have displaced residents, and they have briefed residents on evacuation plans. And like I said, it's in the drawers to pay residents to leave. But also Musumeci says, well, if there are those who say, with all due respect, I don't want to stay here, what should the government do in this situation? Support this decision, help them, or turn away? So that's why they're thinking about paying them. So new construction needs to change somehow, the co-play of urban development and at the same time mass evacuations, that hasn't worked. It's impossible, right? And, equally problematic would be if many people want to stay and they don't want to take the payout, which is probably going to be the case because they don't want to uproot their families. They want to protect their homes, fears of looting. And the biggest problem is these people have lived in this danger zone all their lives. So there's diffidence, right? People have lived here for generations. They're used to the earthquakes and they're saying, this is my land. I don't want to leave. We have even seen this in the little fishing town of Grindavik, where the danger was even more visible, where the big cracks were opening, homes were tilting, the lava was burning down homes, and there was still resistance. So I feel for the people and I feel for this. And we have to wait and see. I have no doubts that we will see the next earthquake swarm probably pretty soon. And there's not much that we can do. We have to wait and see what this volcano is doing and hope and pray that it won't erupt. But, we have to be realistic. At some point, it will erupt. even a small eruption could be catastrophic already, because I think if more than 3 million people are in panic and try to leave, that would be devastating enough, even if the eruption doesn't get them, right? So that was a little bit an update and an insight. Check out this Iceland video. We just had a new eruption, absolutely beautiful, I have to say, and I can say that because nobody was hurt, no infrastructure was destroyed. Check it out, and check out the super yacht that did sink within a minute. Absolutely crazy. Although, like the Titanic, the manufacturer said it's unsinkable. But if there's user error, what can you do? Everything can be destroyed. So check this out, guys. And I hope to see you very, very soon. Thank you so much for your ongoing support. If you want to support my channel, become a channel member. Click the join button that's next to the video, and become a follower on my buymeacoffee.com website. The link is in the description of this video. It's for free. You can follow me there. I'll send out emails. I'll send out posts. But you can also support the channel there if you wish so. And thanks again for your support here on YouTube with your supers, guys. It really helps a lot. And I hope to see you very soon. Stay safe. Be prepared. I'm out of here. Bye-bye.